I was washing 2 coffee cups in Miriam's kitchen when I heard the first word that cut like tin. Embarrassment. It was Tuesday, October 4th, 2022, 7:41 p.m., Savannah heat still clinging to the walls. Derek stood by the hallway mirror tugging his tie, looking at my friend like she'd ruined his reflection. Miriam had cooked smothered chicken and green beans, set the good plates, lit the little vanilla candle Faith picked at the church bazaar for $3. Family dinner, she said. A small peace offering. Look at you, Derek said, voice low and sharp. You sweat walking from the stove to the table. That dress makes you look heavy. Miriam's hand trembled, but she steadied the gravy boat like a nurse with a syringe. I would know. 30 years in scrubs taught me to spot pain that doesn't bleed. I'm Evelyn Carter, 64, widow, retired, and I keep receipts, dates, amounts, names. People tell the truth when paper backs it up. Faith and Caleb sat quiet, eyes ping-ponging between their parents. I caught my face in the window and told myself not to step in. Not yet. Miriam tried a smile. It's the red one you picked, Dee. You said it. He laughed without teeth. I said it last year, before you... Spread. Silence. Even the AC held its breath. I saw Miriam's eyes flick to the hallway table, to the wedding photo frame. Oak, 8x10, bought at Belk, $24.99, summer of 2010. She still dusted it every Saturday like a relic. Derek brushed past, shoulder catching the table. The frame slid, kissed the edge, and fell. The glass cracked in a neat spider down the center of their smiles. Miriam knelt fast, gathering shards with the hem of her red dress. It's okay, she whispered to nobody. Blood welled on her thumb, small and honest. I set down the dish towel. Baby, I've got it, she said, voice flat. Then to Derek, still at the mirror. You used to like that I cooked. You liked that I laughed. You liked me when we were in that one bedroom on Anderson Street, rain coming through the roof, remember? He tightened his tie. I liked potential. I thought about 2009, when Miriam sold her grandmother's quilt for $180 so Derek could buy a navy suit for interviews. I remembered the grease-stained schedule on their fridge, her 5 a.m. shift at the diner, his afternoon applications, the shared umbrella that cost $7.50 at the drugstore on a thunder day. I remembered how she believed for both of them. Now he believed in mirrors. He checked his phone, thumb flicking fast. A notification blinked. The way his eyes shifted left told me that message wasn't about spreadsheets. I memorized the time, 7:42 p.m. I'm old, not slow. Don't wait up, he said, working late. He kissed the air and missed Miriam on purpose. The door snapped shut. Miriam stood with glass in her palm. The photo split down the middle. Her on one side, Derek on the other, white space between. I took a Band-Aid from my purse. You're not alone, I said. I'm sitting with you till this house remembers peace. She nodded, tears catching but not falling. Thank you, Evelyn. The crack in that frame looked like a map line, and I knew maps lead somewhere, even if it's straight through fire. The frame split, and so did the lie he planned to. Subscribe to our channel. This helps our work reach more people. Live through Christmas. By October 20th, the vanilla candle was a nub and the good plates were back in their boxes. I stopped by after church choir practice. The children were doing homework at the kitchen island. Miriam was folding laundry like prayer, slow, careful, determined not to shake. Derek breezed in, 7:58 p.m., smelling like cedar and something floral that didn't come from Miriam's dresser. He draped his blazer on a chair, glanced at the casserole, and smirked. Carbs again. Food, Miriam said softly, for your family. Stop making everything dramatic, he snapped, then turned to the kids. Faith, tell Coach I'll bring snacks Saturday. Caleb, stop slouching. He threw orders like darts and never asked how anyone's day had been. I poured water, kept my mouth shut. But I was counting. A good nurse counts, breaths, beats, patterns. He'd been late at the office 9 nights out of 12. He'd laughed alone at his phone twice in the last minute. His wedding ring was on his keychain, not his finger. Miriam tried again, voice steady. Derek, we could see Reverend James this week. He knows us. Absolutely not, Derek said. I'm not airing our business for sympathy claps. He tapped his phone and grinned at whatever shined back. Here's what we're doing. You stop this clingy routine, hit a gym, and look decent by Christmas Eve. We have company parties. Optics matter. Optics, Miriam repeated, like it was a prescription with side effects. Until Christmas, he said, pointing at her dress like it owed him rent. 60 days. Show discipline. Or, he let the sentence trail where children could hear it die. Faith's pencil snapped. I cleared my throat. Derek, you won't speak deadlines into a woman you promised to cover. He swung his gaze to me. Evelyn, with respect. I've buried a husband, and I don't choke on respect, I said. But I count, and I watch. He scoffed, reached for his blazer. A small slip of paper tumbled from the inside pocket, pirouetted to the floor. I stepped back, let the wind of his carelessness deliver it to Miriam's feet. She picked it up, eyes scanning like a scanner at the clinic. Bloom and Pine Fragrances, she read quietly. Savannah Mall, Dahlia Noir, $129.99, November 3rd, 9:18 p.m. She lifted her eyes. You said you were in Macon that night. Derek didn't miss a beat. Gift for a client. Why you always suspicious? Because after 11 years, Miriam said, the truth shouldn't smell like somebody else. He grabbed the receipt, crumpled it. Lose some weight and maybe I buy you things that cost more than lotion. Caleb flinched. Faith stood, small shoulders squared. Daddy, Mommy is pretty, she said, voice shaking but sure. And she's kind. He stared at his daughter as if kindness were a foreign language. Go to your room, he said finally, softer than his pride wanted. They went. The house held its breath again. Until Christmas, Derek repeated, pocketing the lie like a wallet. Do your part. He walked out to take a call. Through the screen door, I saw him angle his body away, chin tucked, smile he saved for strangers. I turned to Miriam. She was very still, the kind of still that comes before thunder. I took her hand. I keep receipts, I whispered. And I'll keep you too, till you remember you belong to yourself. She nodded once. Until Christmas, she said, not a promise to him, but a clock I could hear tick. CTA. If stories like this help you breathe again, type receipts in the comments so I know you're here with me. The name printed on that perfume receipt wasn't Miriam Hayes. Some debts don't show on paper. They breathe between two people and never quite die. I still remember August 12, 2009, when Miriam pawned her mama's bracelet for $180. Derek needed shoes for an interview at a logistics firm. He'd been out of work for 8 months, one rejection away from collapse. Miriam had been frying catfish and folding hotel sheets to keep the lights on. That morning, she placed the money in his hand like a prayer. Go and shine, baby, she said. Don't worry about me. I was there. I saw his eyes fill with something close to gratitude. But gratitude, when left unchecked, can rot into entitlement. Fast forward to November 2022. He'd just bought a second car, a silver Lexus, for meetings, he said. Miriam still took the bus to her cleaning job twice a week, even though she didn't need to. Habit, maybe, or dignity. That night, she came over to my porch with a thermos of sweet tea. The street smelled of pine and rain. She sat quiet a long while before speaking. Do you think people change, Evelyn? I stirred my cup. They do. The question is which way. She looked down. He wasn't like this. He used to cry when I got tired. Now he laughs when I do. The porch light caught her face, and I saw that quiet decision that only a wounded woman can wear, the one between fight and flight. Keep your records, I said softly. Every date, every word, every proof. Truth needs a paper trail. She smiled sadly. You and your receipts. Yes, ma'am, I said. They saved me once. We sat there until the rain stopped. She left a little before 9, shoulders squared. The next afternoon, she texted me a photo. The same perfume receipt, flattened, not torn. She'd written on the back in neat blue pen. If he lies again, I'll stop praying for his truth. I didn't reply. I just marked the date in my own notebook. The following Sunday at church, Reverend James preached about pride. Some people climb ladders so fast, he said, they forget who held it steady. Derek sat in the third pew, phone glowing in his lap. Miriam sang anyway, voice trembling through the hymn, "Great is thy faithfulness." After service, James pulled me aside. "Evelyn," he said, "you've been quiet. Is something brewing?" I looked toward Derek, shaking hands with the choir director's wife. "Too close, too long. The kind of storm you don't outrun," I said. That evening, as I passed their house, I saw the porch light flicker. Through the curtain, two shadows argued, hers small and still, his large and waving. Then a sound, glass breaking. Later I called. Miriam answered, whispering, "It's fine." But the catch in her breath told me what her words wouldn't. The crack in her voice matched the one in that photo frame. And cracks, baby, only run deeper when you keep pretending you don't see them. By November 10th, Savannah turned cold. Not the kind of cold that bites, the kind that waits. Miriam showed up at my porch wearing a navy coat and eyes swollen from pretending not to cry. In her hand was Derek's white dress shirt, still faintly damp from the wash. "He left this in the back seat," she said. "Lucille found it when she was helping me clean the car." I leaned closer. The scent was sharp, dahlia noir, just like on the receipt. I could smell betrayal in full bloom. "You gonna confront him?" I asked. "I did," she said quietly. "He told me I'm paranoid, that he's mentoring some junior partner named Vanessa. Said I should be proud." Lucille, who'd joined us with her coffee, snorted. "Mentoring after hours, huh? Must be a new curriculum." Miriam smiled weakly. "I'm not stupid, Lou. I just wanted to hear him lie with my own ears." The next day, she took Faith and Caleb to school early, baked a pecan pie, and waited. She told me later she'd prayed all afternoon, not for Derek to come clean, but for herself not to break when he didn't. At 6:23 p.m., his car pulled in. He walked in humming, smelling like a department store window. "You baked?" he said. "For you," she replied. He tasted one bite, nodded. "Not bad." She watched him eat, hands clasped in her lap. "Did Vanessa like the perfume?" He froze mid-chew, eyes flicking up fast. "What?" "I saw the charge hit our joint account," she said, voice steady. "You said it was for a client, but her initials are on the receipt. VC." He stood, wiped his mouth. "You been snooping in my things?" "I've been cleaning your lies off my floor," she said. His jaw clenched. "You really need help." "I had help," she said. Her name was Evelyn. She told me to start writing things down. That's when his tone changed. Men like Derek don't fear God's thunder. They fear witnesses. He snatched the pie plate, slammed it in the sink. "You think you can threaten me with your little church friends? Keep talking, and you'll regret it." Caleb's voice came from the hallway. "Daddy?" He turned, mask slipping just enough for the boy to see the stranger behind it. Then he grabbed his coat and walked out without another word. Miriam called me 10 minutes later, voice flat as a sheet. "He's gone again. But this time, Evelyn, I didn't cry." I could hear wind through her open window, paper rustling, pages torn from the notebook where she'd started her records. "What are you doing, baby?" I asked. "Filing evidence," she said, "and asking God how much longer I have to stay married to humiliation." Outside my own window, church bells rang for evening prayer. And that's when I knew. Before Christmas, something holy, or terrible, was going to break in that house. By November 14th, I'd moved my little black notebook from the drawer to my purse. Not because I wanted a fight, but because numbers don't lie, and I'd learned men like Derek swear they do. Miriam called at lunch. "Evelyn, our mortgage draft bounced." "How?" I asked. "It's the 15th. Money should be there." "It was," she said, breath thin. "On the 10th, we had $1,142.67 in checking. This morning, it showed $312.09. A $950 cash withdrawal at 8:11 p.m. last night, plus $579.99 at Pinnacle Steak and Wine, 2 entrees, a bottle of Silver Oak, and a tip of $120. She paused. "Date night, I guess." "With your money," I said. "Did he admit it?" "He said it was client entertainment and to stop policing him." She laughed, but there was no color in it. I asked for receipts. He waived the steakhouse bill and said it wasn't my business who sat across from him. "Everything that drains your account is your business," I said. "Bring the statement to me." That evening, I spread the pages on my kitchen table like X-rays. You see this pattern? I traced the dates. Friday's spike, Monday's dip. That's not logistics. That's lust on a schedule. Miriam pulled the elastic from her wrist and tied back her hair like a woman ready to lift something heavy. I'm done asking for the truth. I'll prove it. Proof likes company, so we invited Lucille. She leaned over the table, chipped pink polish tapping totals. Honey, he's sloppy. If Vanessa's the junior partner, she's drawing senior wages. I wrote in my notebook, N1, inconsistencies, late nights, ring off. N2, documents, perfume receipt, bank statement. You think I should tell Reverend James? Miriam asked. Not yet, I said. Men like Derek turn pastors into referees. We're building a record, not a boxing match. At 9:06 p.m., Derek's car lights swept Miriam's driveway. She went home. I stayed in the dark on my porch listening. Through the thin night air, I caught pieces of their voices. Mortgage. Stop embarrassing me. Kids are asleep. You're ungrateful. Then a quieter sound, the wedding photo frame being set upright again. Miriam had kept the cracked glass in it, as if to say, I see what's broken and I'm not pretending otherwise. Later she texted. He promised a reset. He said, we'll take the kids to Tybee Island Saturday. Family pictures. Christmas card. Good, I typed back. Make him keep it. Cameras catch what mouths deny. Saturday rose clean and bright. The four of them stood on driftwood near the pier. I watched from the parking lot, giving them space but not distance. The photographer, local gal named Shay, charges $180 for minis, posed them in sunlight that forgave everyone. Bring your arm in, Derek, she called. Closer to your wife. He hesitated, then smiled the kind of smile that never makes it to the eyes. After, I walked to Miriam's car. The kids chattered about seashells. Derek took a call he labeled warehouse. He stepped away, voice too soft for a man at work. Miriam slid into the driver's seat and found it. A second phone, wedged under the passenger mat, unlocked, vibrating with a text that read, See you at 9, same room. And attached was a photo of a hotel key card with a black stripe and the name Riverside Suites printed gold across the top. The ocean hissed against the sand like it was trying to warn us, but the wind carried the words away before they could do any good. The Riverside Suites sat 3 blocks from the Riverwalk, all chrome doors and hibiscus in winter. I know the place. My neighbor's niece works housekeeping there. She says weekends smell like cologne and secrets. Sunday morning, November 20th, Miriam dressed in a navy pencil skirt and a white blouse, hair pinned, lips unpainted. She tucked the hotel keycard photo and the perfume receipt into a manila envelope. I'm giving him one clean chance, she said. Church at 10, lunch after. I'll put the evidence on the table and ask for truth like I'm asking for salt. Reverend James? I asked. Already texted him, she said. I don't want shame. I want honesty. We slid into the second pew. Derek arrived late, 10:14, slipping down the row with that corporate nod that makes ushers forget clocks. Vanessa wasn't in sight, but perfume has a way of showing up even when its owner doesn't. I caught a drift behind us strong enough to water my eyes. James preached from Proverbs. He who conceals hatred has lying lips. And for a moment I thought I saw Derek flinch. After the benediction, he took Miriam's elbow. Lunch at Magnolia table, he said, smiling too wide. My treat. We ordered fried chicken and collards. Derek asked the kids about Bible verses like he was practicing good husband lines. When the plates were cleared, Miriam placed the manila envelope between the salt and the sugar. Open it, she said. He frowned. Not here. Exactly here. He slid out the papers, scanned. A muscle in his cheek jumped. You went through my things. I went through our money, she said. And your second phone was under our passenger mat. His eyes cut to me. This your counsel, Evelyn? I'm just the woman who writes down dates, I said. And today is November 20th. He leaned back, voice low. You want a show, Miriam? You want tears? He laughed. You'll get none. You let yourself go, you nag, and now you snoop. Men in my position. Which position is that? A voice said from behind him. We turned. Vanessa Cole, in a cream sweater and a smile that had never met humility, stood with a to-go cup and nails like knives. "Derek," she said, tapping the table, "you left your charger in room 312. She dropped a small white block on the napkin as if it were a communion wafer. Faith's fork clinked against her plate. Caleb's eyes filled. Miriam didn't look at Vanessa. She looked at Derek, the way a doctor looks at a stubborn fever. "There it is," she said softly. "I asked for truth. I got theater." Vanessa laughed and brushed a crumb from Derek's lapel like she owned the fabric. "Don't be mad, Miriam. He just needed motivation." Lucille appeared at my shoulder, breath hot with disbelief. I knew that girl would wear her sin to Sunday lunch. Derek stood, face flushed. "This is inappropriate." "So was your $579.99 dinner," Miriam said, calm as a lake. She gathered the envelope. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll pack a bag. You'll spend tonight at Riverside. Not to play, to think. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Reverend James's office. You tell the whole truth, or you'll read mine in front of a judge." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "He doesn't answer to you." Miriam finally met Vanessa's gaze, the kind of look that dries paint. "He doesn't answer to you either. He answers to the vows he broke." Derek's phone buzzed. He looked down. The name on the screen said Warehouse. I watched him swipe decline and lie with his thumb. We left cash on the table and walked out into clear noon. The church bells started again, sweet and stubborn. At 8:37 p.m., my neighbor's niece texted, "Room 312. He checked in alone." I exhaled for the first time all day. At 9:12, tires screamed somewhere near the Riverwalk, and a siren rose into the night like the sound of a truth you can't stuff back in its box. By Monday, November 21st, the siren from the river had turned into rumor. Folks swapped stories faster than lightning in Savannah. Some said a fender bender by the roundabout, others said a near miss. Either way, Derek texted Miriam at 1:07 a.m. "I'm fine, don't wait up." Fine is a small word that always hides a bigger one. At 7:32 a.m., he walked into the kitchen with a face like a shut door. The kids were eating oatmeal. 2 bowls, 2 spoons, the little jar of cinnamon I'd bought at Piggly Wiggly for $2.49 sitting open between them. Derek dropped his keyring on the counter, 2 car fobs, a tiny silver gym tag, and a new brass key I didn't recognize. "Meeting at 9, he said. Then to Miriam, "Hand me your debit card." She wiped Caleb's chin and didn't move. "Our card." "My money," he said. "Our mortgage," she replied, and slid the card into her apron pocket. He leaned in, voice thin as a razor. "You embarrassed me yesterday. My boss's wife was at Magnolia. Word gets around." "I asked you to tell the truth," Miriam said. "The truth got there first." He stared past her at the wedding photo on the hallway table. Propped upright, glass still cracked. He reached out and turned it face down, a little ceremony of contempt. Then he took his phone, thumbed the screen, and said like a weather report, "I took your name off the auto-pay. The SUV title is in my file. The joint account, consider it closed." Faith shifted in her chair. "Daddy, go get your backpacks," he said without looking. They went. Miriam dried her hands, slow as someone loading a rifle. "You emptied the account at 8:11 p.m. last night, Derek. The ATM camera caught your good side." He flinched at the word camera. I saw it like a hiccup under his jaw. "You think you're safe because you keep 2 phones," she said, voice steady. "But lies hate clocks and glass." He grabbed the mail from the counter, shuffled, found a blue envelope, the HOA fee notice, and slapped it back down. "You want to play courtroom, Miriam? Then pack a bag. Go stay with your gossip crew till Christmas. I'll keep the kids stable." "Stable?" she whispered. "Like room 312? He stepped closer. For a moment, the air thinned, and I slid my hand into my purse where I keep more than Band-Aids. He saw me see him and stepped back, pride beating caution on points, but not by much. At 3:18 p.m., a locksmith van idled at the curb, white, with Savannah Safe and Key stenciled in blue. By supper time, the front door made a sound I'd never heard, the click of a life being separated on purpose. Miriam arrived at my porch carrying 1 duffel, 1 shoebox of papers, and the photo frame wrapped in a dish towel. She looked like a woman evacuating before a hurricane. "You're safe here," I said, taking the bag. Lucille hurried over with an air mattress and a pie. Faith and Caleb came after dark. Derek had late work again. We put on a movie and kept the volume low enough to hear a car door if one slammed. Around 10:26 p.m., my phone lit with a message from my neighbor's niece at Riverside. He's back, not with the sweater girl, alone. Limp in his left leg, maybe drunk. Room change, 508. Miriam stared at the text without blinking. He changed the locks, she said. Not to me, not to anyone. So did I. She pulled the dish towel off the frame, traced the crack like it was a road she'd already walked in the dark. Then she slid the frame under the couch, as if burying a body no one would miss. The night settled heavy, the kind of heavy that sits on your chest and makes you count your own breath. And before we turned out the lamp, the doorbell rang once, soft as a whisper that doesn't want an answer. It was Tuesday, November 22nd, fog low over Broughton Street, that cottony gray that makes even lies look soft. I made eggs. Lucille made phone calls. Miriam made a decision. We're going to Riverside Suites, she said, tying her scarf. Not to spy, to document. Lucille grinned. And we're bringing cookies for housekeeping. Information travels better with sugar. By 10:05 a.m., we were in the lobby. Lemon cleaner, fake ferns, a bowl of butterscotch wrapped in gold. The desk clerk wore a name tag that said Karen and a face that said, "Don't make my day harder." "Good morning," I said, laying a Tupperware of snickerdoodles on the counter like an offering. "My niece works upstairs. Tasha. Could you buzz her down?" Karen's suspicion melted exactly as fast as butter does on a warm biscuit. "She just clocked in," she said, dialing. 2 minutes later, Tasha came bouncing out in her housekeeping polo, eyes bright and curious. "Miss Evelyn," she whispered, hugging me. "You got me cookies?" "Got you a question," I said. "And don't you do a thing that breaks your rules." She nodded, already reading the air. Miriam stepped forward, gentle as a Sunday school teacher. "We're not asking for room access, sugar. We just need times, corridors, doors. That's all. If anyone asks, you didn't tell us a thing." Tasha's eyes flicked to the security dome in the corner ceiling. "Lobby camera keeps a 72-hour loop. Floor cameras keep 48. The manager watches when there's noise. Otherwise, footage sleeps. Room 312 Sunday. Room 508 last night," Miriam said, eyes on the carpet, voice flat like a court reporter. Tasha chewed a cookie, thinking. "Sunday, 8:57 p.m., 2 people, laughter, perfume. Yesterday, 9:09 p.m., 1 person walks like the ground don't like him." She tilted her head. "Left leg off. He asked for extra towels, didn't tip." Miriam closed her eyes a moment. "Thank you." Tasha wiped her hands. "You didn't hear this from me, but Karen can print a folio for a guest if the cardholder contests a charge. She hates disputes. She loves peace." Tasha looked at Karen. "Auntie, they seem like peace." Karen sighed the sigh of a woman who's had to pick between rules and right too many times. "If a Mrs. Hayes calls her bank about Riverside debit charges, the bank will fax us a verification request. If that happened, and if I hypothetically printed what the bank needed, it would show dates, times, room numbers, and signatures on food orders." Lucille slid a pen across the counter like a baton. Miriam wrote her name on a dispute form I'd happened to bring. "Hypothetically," she said, "you might receive a fax this afternoon." Karen stared at us for a long beat, then took the cookies like communion. "Hypothetically," she said, "you should come back at 4 p.m. We left with nothing in our hands and everything we needed in motion. Outside, the fog lifted like a curtain. By lunchtime, Reverend James texted, "My office, Wednesday 9 a.m. I'll sit both of you down. Bring whatever you have." Miriam replied, "I'm bringing dates." At 3:41 p.m., the bank called her cell. "Mrs. Hayes, did you authorize Riverside Suites charges on Novi 13/20/21? Miriam answered clean, "Yes for the 13th, company event. I was present. No for the 20th and 21st. The agent said the word we'd been working toward all morning. Dispute opened. We were back in the lobby by 3:58, pretending to admire brochures for trolley tours. The fax machine hiccuped at 4:12, a sound like a pigeon clearing its throat. Karen slid a single page into a manila sleeve, and placed it on the counter without looking up. We walked to the car in silence. In the front seat, Miriam opened the sleeve and read with the steady eyes of a nurse about to deliver hard news. Riverside Suites folio. Guest, D. Hayes. Room, 312, 1120. Room 508, 1121, 1120, 8:59 p.m. 2 house wines, 1 creme brulee. Signature, V. Cole, 1121, 9:17 p.m. Extra towels, ice bucket, 25 minibar charge. Incident note, guest stumbled in hallway, declined medical assistance. Miriam folded the paper once, then twice, the edges lining up like she'd trained them to behave. This is not for court, she said quietly. This is for me, for my decision. Lucille exhaled. What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow, Miriam said, eyes on the church steeple a mile away. I let truth speak in a room where God is invited to listen. Have you been through something similar? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every comment. It's important for us to know we're not alone. She slid the folio into her shoebox of papers, placed the box on her lap like a baby you don't dare wake. And as she closed the car door, my phone buzzed. Reverend James again. Brace yourself. Derek just texted that he's bringing a witness to defend his reputation. Wednesday, November 23rd, 9 a.m. And the counseling room behind the sanctuary smelled like lemon oil and hymnals. A wooden cross hung over the bookcase. I took the chair by the window. Miriam set her shoebox of papers on the table. Reverend James Hayes, Derek's older brother, folded his hands and looked like a man ready to love and to judge, whichever the truth called for. Derek came in at 9:06, jaw set, suit crisp. He held the door an inch wider than necessary, and there she was, Vanessa Cole, cream sweater, eyes that never blink long enough to consider consequence. James stood. Vanessa, you're not part of this marriage. Wait in the lobby. She smiled, sweet as a trap, and left the door cracked with perfume. James glanced at the folder in Derek's hand. Brother, you asked for counsel. Sit. Miriam didn't look at Derek. She looked at the cross. Before we speak, she said, sliding a paper forward, dates. James read the Riverside folio aloud, pastoral voice turning courthouse clean. November 20th, room 312, signature V. Cole. November 21st, room 508, incident note. Derek laughed in a key I didn't recognize. Fabrications, hotels make mistakes. Miriam placed the perfume receipt beside it. Bloom and Pine, Nov 3, 129.99, VC initials. He told me he was in Macon. James raised a brow. Derek? Client gift, he said, too fast. I slid a bank statement across the grain. $579.99 at Pinnacle Steak and Wine, 8:11 p.m., Nov 14. Mortgage bounced next morning. I tapped my little black notebook. I keep receipts. I also keep clocks. Derek's lips thinned. He pulled his own folder open with a flourish, laid out gym invoices, protein subscriptions, and a trainer's plan with Miriam's name printed at top. Solutions, he said. My wife refuses to invest in herself. I was trying to help. Miriam's mouth didn't twitch. You printed a diet and called it love. James leaned in, elbows on oak. Derek, last night you texted me you'd bring a witness to defend your reputation. You brought your affair. That isn't defense. That is evidence. Color rose up Derek's neck. Watch your tone, he snapped. James didn't blink. I watched it for 14 years. You are my brother, but truth outranks blood. Derek turned to Miriam, lowering his voice like intimacy could be borrowed. Baby, you're spiraling because your body changed. I stuck around. Haven't I paid the mortgage? Haven't I... Paid? Miriam whispered. You tried to remove me from autopay, from the insurance, from the title, and you changed the locks. James's head lifted. You changed the locks on your wife? Derek's stare skittered right. Temporary, safety measure. For whom? I asked. Your pride? James exhaled, long and heavy. Here's what the church requires. You end the affair. Today. You confess to Miriam without excuses. You place the second phone on this table. You schedule individual counseling, not optics. And you restore access to the house and accounts by sundown. Derek's eyes slid to the door where Vanessa's perfume leaked like a secret. He didn't move. From the lobby came a soft knock and the muffled clink of a coffee stirrer. Vanessa's silhouette shifted in the glass panel. She was smiling at herself. Miriam gathered her papers and stood. "Reverend, thank you." "That is all I needed to hear." Derek scoffed. "Running away to your friends again?" She lifted the shoebox. "No, walking toward myself." He reached for her wrist. James caught his forearm midair with a pastor's grip that knew men and gravity. "Don't," he said, quiet as thunder. Miriam turned to her husband like a nurse telling the truth a doctor won't. "I will be at Evelyn's until Christmas Eve. You will not touch my children with your lies. If you want to see them, you'll meet us in the sanctuary, in the open, where God can watch." Derek swallowed, pride bobbing like a thing that can't decide whether to drown. Miriam opened the door, and Vanessa forget she was supposed to pretend patience. "All set?" she asked Derek, bright as a neon sign that never learns when to go dark. Miriam stepped past her with the kind of quiet that makes even perfume go still for a second. And James said the one sentence that rearranged the room. "Derek, you're not preaching Thanksgiving service tomorrow. You'll be sitting down front like a man who has something to repent for." Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, wore the color of pew wood and overcast sky. The sanctuary hummed. Choir rehearsal, casserole logistics, mothers whispering forgiveness they weren't sure they meant. Miriam wasn't in the swirl. She was at my kitchen table with 3 envelopes, a flash drive, and a spiral notebook labeled, in her neat print, "Until Christmas." "We're not doing spectacle," she said. "We're doing safety." Lucille dropped her salon cape on a chair and slid into the 3rd seat like we were dealing cards. "What's the play?" Miriam numbered the envelopes. "1 goes to Reverend James. Copies of the folio, the receipt, the bank statement, and my own letter. Dates, times, no adjectives. 2 goes to the bank with the dispute form and a request to freeze additional cards. 3 is for my HR. Change deposit to my private account and update my emergency contact." "Lawyer?" I asked. "Consult set for December 1st, 10 a.m., she said, tapping the notebook. "Temporary separation, custody schedule, housing." Lucille grinned. "There she is." "Apartment viewing Monday, 3 p.m., Miriam added. 2 bedrooms, East Light, $180. The lady said if I like it, I can hold with $200. I slid my old USB across the table. "Put scans on this. Paper burns, plastic travels." She loaded files with the calm of a woman ironing a flag. While the progress bar crawled, I made tea. Faith and Caleb colored turkeys on the floor, whispering conspiracies only siblings understand. Their laughter sounded like the truth we were fighting to keep. At 4:10 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Reverend James in a wool coat, rain beating his lashes. He looked tired in the way men get when they love somebody who won't recognize a cliff. "I'll escort them tomorrow," he said, nodding toward the kids. "I don't want Derek improvising in a holy place." Miriam handed him envelope 1. "If he tries to charm the pulpit, you use that." James tucked it inside his Bible. "He won't touch the pulpit tomorrow." "Good," she said, "because I won't touch his hand." He bowed his head. "Miriam, I'm sorry. I failed you as a pastor and as a sister-in-law who should have read earlier what pride was spelling out." "You didn't fail," she said softly. "I did. Forgiving a man so quickly he forgot forgiveness was a gift." After he left, we packed the kids' overnight bags, church clothes, tiny Bibles with frayed ribbons, Faith's note tucked under her socks. "Mommy, I'm brave because you are." I put 2 granola bars in the side pocket. Small mercies feed big days. Night fell like a velvet curtain. In the quiet, Miriam took the cracked wedding frame from under the couch, opened the back, and slid the photo out. She split the picture on the glass line with a slow, deliberate pull. Then she placed her half, Miriam holding the bouquet, eyes up, into a clean 5x7. The other half, Derek's smile, all teeth and future, she laid on the table and covered with the HOA bill he'd slapped down days earlier. Paper on paper, lie under due date. My phone buzzed at 9:02 p.m. Tasha from Riverside. FYI, management flagged 11:21 incident for insurance. They saved the hallway camera clip. If subpoena comes, footage stands. I read it aloud. Miriam nodded once, that same quiet decision from my porch weeks ago. That's N3, she said. Image. The last thing left is a public place for the truth to breathe. She capped her pen, closed the notebook, and set the clock on the stove to count down. 30 days, then one night, then a sanctuary full of people who thought casseroles could heal anything. Tomorrow would be turkey and hymns. Christmas Eve would be harvest. Friday, December 23rd. The sanctuary was dressed for Christmas. Red poinsettias, gold ribbons, the smell of pine and polish. Reverend James sat at the long oak table in the fellowship hall, the same place we'd folded bulletins and shared cobbler for years. Today the air was cold enough to make truth shiver. Miriam walked in at 9:05 a.m., wearing navy again, her color for war and peace. She carried her shoebox and that quiet grace that's louder than thunder when it wants to be. Derek arrived 5 minutes later in his gray suit, a limp still ghosting his left leg. He tried a smile. "You look nice." Miriam didn't answer. She set the box down and opened the lid. Papers in order, receipts, bank prints, the hotel folio, the USB. She pushed them forward like communion. Reverend James cleared his throat. "Derek, you asked for this meeting. Speak." Derek leaned back, clasping his hands. "I made mistakes, but my wife here, she's dramatized them. She's been listening to bad counsel. This whole narrative—" "Stop calling your wife a narrative," James said quietly. Derek shifted, jaw tight. "You all want a confession? Fine. I stepped out of line. It's over now. Vanessa's gone. I've been under stress." "Stress doesn't sign receipts," Miriam interrupted. Her voice didn't rise, but even the poinsettias seemed to lean closer. He blinked. "Excuse me?" She pulled out the faxed folio from Riverside Suites. 2 nights, November 20th and 21st. Her name, your signature, room numbers, timestamps, the camera report. You told me it was work. Derek rubbed his temple. "You think printing papers makes you righteous?" "I think lying in a church makes you small," she said. Silence. He stood, pacing. "You've already decided I'm the villain. So what? You want me to kneel? Apologize in front of your gossip circle?" James spoke, voice steady. "You will speak truth before God, or you'll lose more than reputation. You'll lose the part of yourself that can still pray." Derek's hands trembled just enough to show the crack under the armor. "I was lonely," he muttered. "You changed. You weren't the same." Miriam looked straight at him. "I changed because I was carrying your weight. The bills, the kids, the prayers you stopped saying. You wanted a version of me that never needed anything. That woman doesn't exist anymore." For a long moment, no one spoke. The clock on the wall ticked past 9:42 a.m. Like it, too, was tired of waiting. Finally, Derek's shoulders dropped. "What do you want from me, Miriam?" "Nothing," she said. "That's the freedom part." She packed the papers back into the box, closed the lid, and handed it to Reverend James. "Keep it. You'll need it Sunday." Derek frowned. "Sunday?" "For the Christmas service," she said. "You said you'd testify about blessings. You will, just not the kind you planned." He reached for her arm, but James moved between them. "Leave it, Derek." When we stepped out into the December air, Miriam exhaled once, slow and deep. "That wasn't confession," she said. "That was rehearsal." I asked what she meant. She looked toward the steeple, sunlight breaking through gray. "Because on Christmas Eve, the congregation will hear the full sermon, delivered by the truth itself. Saturday, December 24th, 6 p.m. Savannah glowed with lights and gospel songs. The sanctuary was packed, families in red, children waving little candles, the choir humming Silent Night. Derek sat in the second row, his gray suit pressed, his smile fixed like glass. Reverend James adjusted the mic. "Tonight," he said, "we give thanks for grace, the kind that saves and the kind that warns." He nodded toward Miriam at the back pew. She rose, calm, a folded paper in one hand and the broken photo frame in the other. The crowd parted without knowing why. I stood beside her. "You sure?" I whispered. She nodded. Truth travels better on holy ground. When she reached the front, the room stilled. "Some of you know me," she began, voice carrying without the mic. Some of you only know my husband. Derek shifted, smile thinning. I've come tonight, she said, not to shame a man, but to honor the truth that's been too quiet. She set the photo frame on the altar, the crack catching the candlelight. Then she unfolded the paper, the Riverside folio, the perfume receipt, the bank printout, and laid them one by one beside it. This, she said, is what silence buys you. This is what grace looks like when it's spent. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Reverend James bowed his head. Derek stood, whispering, Miriam, stop this. She looked at him gently, almost kindly. You told me to look decent by Christmas Eve. I did. I brought the truth dressed in its Sunday best. He started toward her, but James raised a hand. Sit down, brother. The Lord is speaking, and he doesn't stutter. Miriam turned to the congregation. I forgive him, she said. Not because he asked, because I refused to let bitterness collect interest on my soul. The room went silent again. No crying, no shouting, just that holy stillness that shows up when something real is happening. She stepped down from the altar and stopped in front of Derek. You're free to find yourself, Derek, but the house on Anderson Street won't hold you anymore. The locks have changed, same as my heart. Then she walked back down the aisle. Faith and Caleb ran to meet her halfway, their hands small but certain. People didn't know whether to clap or pray. Some did both. Derek stood frozen under the cross, every lie he'd told laid out like confession notes no one asked to hear. Outside, the church bells began to ring for midnight mass, each toll like a nail sealing the story shut. And I remember thinking as we stepped into the cool December night, at my age, I don't shout, I document. And sometimes, baby, the truth doesn't need a voice. It just needs a stage. Christmas Day, 7:42 a.m. My phone buzzed before the coffee finished dripping. Reverend James. He won't be on stage for New Year's. Board met at dawn. Consequence doesn't always roar. Sometimes it signs a memo. By noon, news had walked the pews and crossed the parking lot. No screaming, no gossip circles. Just that fellowship hall quiet where casseroles cover shock. Derek didn't show his face. Vanessa did, briefly. She slipped into the vestibule in a camel coat, looked at the altar, read the room, and slipped back out like a shadow that knew its sun was gone. December 26th, 9:15 a.m. Human Resources called Miriam at work. She put the phone on speaker while I sliced oranges for the kids. Mrs. Hayes, the voice said, your direct deposit has been rerouted per your request. Also, your emergency contact is now E. Carter. Confirm? Confirmed, Miriam said. And one more thing, HR added, voice softer. We had an anonymous email alleging your spouse accessed your benefits portal without permission. We've locked your profile and sent a new two-factor key. Miriam met my eyes. Thank you, she told the line. Paper shields your peace when people don't. December 27th, 10 Mars a.m. Attorney Carla Boone, downtown 4th floor, diploma frames neat as a ruler. We brought the shoebox, the USB, and our quiet. Carla listened the way good nurses do. No nodding for punctuation, just listening that lands. Temporary separation order, she said, flipping a pad. Request exclusive possession of residence until the court decides, or at minimum a structured custody schedule. Given the lock change and financial withdrawal, I'll also file for a temporary injunction on accounts. Miriam folded her hands. No war, no smear, just safety. Carla smiled with the half of her mouth that does truth. Then we'll speak in dates and dollars. Judges like those more than adjectives. By 2:18 p.m., Carla had emailed a draft. Mondays and Wednesdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Supervised visits at the church fellowship hall. Reverend James present. Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m., same terms. No overnights until Derek completes 8 counseling sessions. Proof by receipts. Access restored to the house for Miriam. Derek to vacate until hearing. Mutual restraining provision. No harassment, no surprise visits. Financials, freeze on the joint account. Derek to cover mortgage and HOA through March. Paper shows ability. Bank statements don't lie. December 28th, 4:12 p.m. Riverside Suites faxed the insurance preservation letter regarding the hallway clip of 1121. Carla filed the subpoena request like a woman sliding a queen across a chessboard. N4, Miriam whispered, touching the folder. Master-proof. Just in case he learns to perform remorse. That evening, Derek texted, "You destroyed my name." Miriam replied with one line. "Your actions signed it." He didn't write back. December 30th, 6:03 p.m. We toured the Bay Street apartments, Unit 2B, East Light like Morning Mercy. $180 monthly, $100 deposit, $200 hold fee already paid on Nov 30. The manager, a woman with kind wrists, said, "January 1st move-in works if you need it." Miriam stood in the doorway of the small second bedroom. "Faith's desk here," she murmured. Caleb's train set under the window. She pressed her palm to the wall like it could hear her promise. She signed the lease December 31st, 11:22 a.m. Ink smooth, chin high, hands steady. At midnight, fireworks stitched light over Savannah. We stood on my porch, 3 blankets, 4 mugs of cocoa, one future tightening its laces. Miriam didn't make a wish. Wishes are for waiting. She had a plan, a key, and a paper trail. And somewhere across town, a man practiced the art of regret without learning the craft of repair. January 2nd, 9x a.m. We moved Miriam into Unit 2B with 2 duffels, 1 crock pot, the 5x7 of her half of the wedding photo, and a plant from Lucille that looked hard to kill. The kids labeled their drawers with masking tape and block letters, Faith and Caleb. I taped the Wi-Fi password, 16 characters, inside the cabinet like a secret we were proud to keep. At 11:30 a.m., the courthouse clerk stamped the temporary orders. Carla texted a photo of the seal. "You're covered," she wrote. Miriam exhaled as if the paper itself had lungs. January 3rd, 5:10 p.m. First supervised visit. The fellowship hall smelled like coffee and crayons. Reverend James sat at the end of the table with a crossword he didn't touch. Derek arrived with a Target bag of apology gifts. Plastic cars, a plush lamb, a book about astronauts. He looked smaller without a stage. "Daddy," Caleb said, tentative as a first step after a fall. Derek knelt. "I'm sorry, son." He glanced at Faith. "I'm sorry, baby." Faith held his gaze like a mirror that doesn't break anymore. "Sorry is a door," she said, quiet. "Do you have the key?" Derek blinked. "What key?" "Change," she said, and opened her book. Miriam sat 2 chairs away, posture straight, hands folded. She didn't intercept or add commentary. Boundaries are holy things. You build them for worship, not for war. January 5th, 7:45 p.m. Therapist intake at Harbor Counseling. Miriam alone. She paid the $40 copay and told the story in dates. The therapist, a woman with a streak of silver in her hair, said, "You're grieving a living person. We'll name it, then we'll loosen it." January 9th came with a letter. Derek's employer placed him on administrative leave pending conduct review after a complaint tied to improper relationship impacting performance. The language wore a suit, but the meaning showed its socks. That night he texted Miriam. "They're punishing me because you embarrassed me at church." She replied, "They're responding to what you did at a hotel." He called. She didn't pick up. The order didn't forbid calls, but dignity sometimes does. January 12th, 3:10 p.m. The subpoena cleared. Carla emailed a download link for the hallway clip. Grainy, timestamp blinking like a conscience in the corner. Derek, unsteady, refusing help. A housekeeper pausing at the door. A manager writing, "Declined medical assistance." We didn't need it that day. We filed it anyway. Truth ages well in cold storage. January 15th after service, a woman from the 3rd pew hugged Miriam. "I used to think forgiveness meant staying," she whispered. "Now I think it means stopping the bleeding." Miriam nodded, eyes soft. "Forgiveness isn't a leash," she said. "It's scissors." We hung curtains in 2B, cheap white panels that turned morning into a gentle thing. The kids strung paper stars over the window with tape that wouldn't hold, and laughter that did. I wrote the rent due date on the fridge calendar in black marker, Feb 1, $1,180. Clarity keeps panic from borrowing tomorrow. Before bed, Miriam set the cracked frame on the top shelf of the closet, high and out of reach. Not hidden, remembered. Some relics keep us honest when nostalgia tries to argue its case. And when the apartment finally went quiet, she whispered into the new dark, not a prayer begging, but a psalm of boundaries. I forgive you. I do not return. March 4th, 6:50 a.m. Savannah woke slow, pink sky over live oaks. I brewed coffee in my old percolator and drove to 2B with biscuits wrapped in a towel. Faith had a science fair, Caleb a spelling test. They barreled to the door with shoes half-tied and grins whole. Miriam stood by the window in a gray sweater, steam rising from her mug. The apartment smelled like oranges and paper and a little bit of lavender, the scent of a life that has decided what it will allow. "How's your heart?" I asked. She smiled, not wide but true, less noisy. On the table lay 3 envelopes addressed in her script. 1. Bank, finalizing the account separation. 2. Carla Boone, esque. Documents for the property inventory. She'd let the house go. The numbers made more sense. Safety all but signed it. 3. Harbor counseling. Receipt for session number 8. Boxes checked. Not a race, a rhythm. March 10th, 5 p.m. Last supervised visit. Derek arrived early, hair neater, eyes tired in a way that work can't fix. He handed the kids a small photo album. Birthdays, park days, a beach shot from Tybee where the sun looked like it forgave everything. "I'm working on it," he said. Slow. Miriam nodded. "Good." He looked at her, not quite able to hold the gaze. "I know you're not coming back." She didn't soften the truth. "I'm not." "Will you still pray for me?" "I already do," she said. "Just not for what you want." When we walked out, the evening had that blue hour hush. Faith slipped her hand into Miriam's. Caleb skipped ahead, spelling forgiveness under his breath like a word he'd keep safe. March 21st, 2:03 p.m. The court clerk stamped the consent order, co-parenting schedule formalized, finances divided, no surprises, no stage. Riverside's insurance clip stayed archived, never played in open court. Sometimes the mere possibility of light makes roaches scatter. We celebrated with ice cream at Leopold's, 2 scoops each, because sorrow had counted calories long enough. Lucille told a joke so bad even strangers laughed. Somebody paid our check before we could. The server pointed at nobody in particular and everybody at once. That night, Miriam took a small box to the river. Inside, the other half of the wedding photo, his smile, all teeth, and future. The wind off the water licked at her hair. She didn't throw it in. "That's littering, and we weren't raised that way." She folded it once, then once more, and slid it into the pocket of her coat like a chapter she might reread only to remember why she closed the book. We watched the lights ripple in the current. I thought about my late husband and the receipts I keep, dates that no longer hurt, amounts that lost their teeth. Time doesn't heal all things. It teaches you where not to touch. On the walk back, Miriam stopped under the live oak by the corner where Anderson Street crosses Whitaker. She looked up into the moss, that lace of the South that makes even hard truths look dressed. "I thought love meant staying no matter what," she said. "Turns out love sometimes means leaving in time." I squeezed her hand. "At my age, I don't shout," I said, smiling. "I document." She smiled back. "At my age, I don't beg. I choose." And we crossed on the green, 2 women with pockets full of receipts and a night full of afterlight, walking home to a small apartment where the locks were new, the air was honest, and the future had learned our names. If this story gave you strength, help us by sharing, liking, and hitting the notification bell. We'd love to hear in the comments which part of the story you liked most. See you tomorrow.